We began the series last week by Unlocking Love, where we were helped by a resource person to understand what really love is. So we are going to bring you excerpts from last week, and then when we come back, you can meet our guest, and then we can start the ball rolling for today's segment. And so here are excerpts from last week.
On GTV Breakfast Show, we bring to you the Love Series with Elder Amos Kevin Annan, CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation.
We discuss love, dating, courtship, marriage, parenting, and many more.
When I ask you simply, what is love, what would you tell me?
This is how I would put it. Love would be a sentimental statement that calls for sacrifice, sometimes includes sexual exchanges or interests, and then also it demands support. Today they call it crush. But I always tell my young ladies and gentlemen, if you say crush or reduct love to crush, then you have to get a crush helmet. Now, there's also somebody who believes that if somebody loves you, they pamper you. Okay, they praise you. And you must profit from love. Okay, so if you are like that person, it means that l'argent n'est pas là, don't go there.
Are there types of love?
So,
who should we love? What love should we give to who?
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Agape, eros, phileo, and storge. But there's more than that.
Okay.
There is also philotia, there's pragma, there's mania, also in love. That vow, I love you. And who doesn't want to hear that? I was told many years ago that the greatest sound apart from your name is to hear I love you.
When it's said slowly.
Slowly.
Yes.
I love you. Is that what it is?
No, like a bit gruff.
Oh, okay.
And slowly.
That one, I need to rehearse it.
Yeah, you need to. Yeah.
Where people come into consultations and discussions with us with what they call broken heart.
Join us every Wednesday in the month of February for this exciting and insightful time with our relationship experts.
Don't miss the Love Series on GTV Breakfast. We are live on GTV and all our social media platforms.
Oh, well, welcome back in studio. So today we'll take it a notch higher by learning all about dating. Our guest is still Elder Amos Kevin Annan, the CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation and a healthy homes advocate. We also have in studio a group of young persons who will be inviting to, join the conversation. They have lots of questions and we're going to share interesting views. And so, today this is our in-studio audience and we'll set the ball rolling. Okay, Elder Amos, last week we generated a conversation that lasted for days across social media.
Thank you.
Talking about unlocking love.
Well, this week I'm overwhelmed. Seeing the crowd here.
They are eager.
I'm a shy person, so...
It doesn't come across as
numbers like this, they intimidate me. So I'm actually relying on God for grace.
Amen, for grace. I doubt that very much that you're a shy person. Okay, let's set the ball rolling. So yes. When should we begin dating? When is it right for a person, boy, girl, to start dating?
Well, I mean, the concept of dating is not a relationship. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, dating appears to have become a relationship. Dating is an appointment. It's not a relationship.
How's that?
You see, I have a date with you on Breakfast Show. I'm here. It's got nothing really to do with love. It's got more to do with a matter at issue, i.e. Love Series.
But I could say I'm dating, for instance, Jay Gabra.
Yes. You see, it is because of that kind of description that dating now has become a relationship for a young person. You can have a date with your boss to discuss some business issues. You can have a date with your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister. It's not necessarily because of love. It's about having an appointment, a scheduled meeting for a discussion. Now, the scheduled meeting to get to know another is what most people have called relationships. And that is not a one-off activity. It's a recurring engagement between two parties. And most of it is a young man and a lady, or an older man and an older lady, or any category as they would have it. So there's a need for us to distinguish a relationship that is fledgling or flourishing from the concept of dating. I've seen a lot of young men and women, they just meet you, say, can I date you? They date you and it becomes experimental. They're playing on the keyboards of your emotions.
Okay.
They're experimenting with their sexual prowess. And if you don't fit their ideal, they leave you. Okay. So you're having a lot of date crashes all over the place. And people are going through deep hurt and pain and are not able to find outlets.
Okay.
And so let us be very careful. It's sad that now it's gone as young as primary, upper primary. You can imagine, upper primary young boy or young girl says she's dating so and so. And that means it's a steady relationship that they have established with the hope that they get to know the person. But relationship 101, people show you what they want you to see. The rest you must discover.
Right.
So I have sat with people who have actually dated for 4 years, but couldn't survive 4 months of marriage. Why? Because the concept of love in dating is completely different from the concept of love in marriage.
Right.
We've got a lot of work to do. So it's not so much as what age, but at what time an individual. I would use that.
Okay.
Because the moment you put chronology to it, then it means that unless a person attains a certain age, they cannot pursue a relationship.
Okay.
It's got more to do with maturity. Now, a matured person has first understood who they are, so they are not going to depend on you to define who they are, to determine who they are, to describe who they are. They know themselves. There's a famous song that makes the round, I Know Who I Am. We sing it, but do we all really know who we are?
Right.
Many of us are being turned into something we are not. The second thing with a mature person is that they know their set of values that governs their activities and makes those the basis for the determination of who comes into their life and who must exit their life. That value system is what in dating relationships we call boundaries. You see, so if you don't have your values clarified and clearly stated, you will have difficulties in a relationship that you call dating relationship. Now, the third bit is also got to do with knowing why you exist, your purpose, your mission. You see, this life is not just an idle walk. It is about scoring goals.
Okay.
The number of goals you score is what people see and say you are successful. But if you are here to entertain us, we will be happy. Unfortunately, like the Ghana Black Stars, I keep saying, we go to play a tournament and then some people focus on dribblings.
Yeah.
Oh, we dribble them, we play them, you know, agro, and we do agro. And the people score us and we come home and we are crying. Because the tournament of life is about scoring goals. Now, I always say, if you have not clearly defined the purpose for which you exist, never ever go into a relationship. Otherwise, you will sacrifice your existence for love that comes to you as a vapor.
Okay, Elder Amos, this is where even some of us who are not children, we are not in our teens, we are still discovering who we are. These are teenagers, probably into 21, 22, 23. How do you explain to such a person what you're telling me now? Even I haven't been able to grasp everything, and I'm still in the process of figuring out who I am.
You see, teen love, the prospect of teen love getting into a state of consummation as marriage is not as promising as many create the impression. If you took about 100 teenagers who say they are in love, and sad thing is, most of them, they fall in love. They don't grow in love. There's a difference between falling in love and growing in love.
Okay.
One requires time, the other is under pressure. We are in love, are falling in love with so and so. So there's a certain frenzy, there's a certain hype and heat that is generated, and most of it is sensational sentiments. And I talk about love having a component which is sentimental.
Yeah.
When the sentiments take the best of you, you lose your sense of judgment. So they say, I've been bitten by the love bug. Oh, I have tingling sensations.
Butterflies in my stomach.
Butterflies in my tummy. I mean, those things would actually disappear after a while when reality dawns on you. And for a lot of young men and women, we need to help them first and foremost to have a vision of their life. Because anybody who comes into a relationship with you, whether before marriage or as pursuing marriage, they are coming to be a help to you, to complement you. So where you have a lack, they supply to meet your need. Where they are unable to do, you find other ways to meet that. But many don't have anything they are pursuing in life. So when you come into their life, they now turn you into their life. So they see you and people make statements like, you are my world. How on earth can a human being be your world?
Isn't that supposed to be an endearment?
No. No. Even husbands and wives don't say that to each other.
No?
No. They have fulfilled certain critical need in their lives, but they are not their life. Because you see, the moment a person becomes your life, when they are out of your life, you come to ground zero. And I've seen people whose lives have been shattered totally because morning, afternoon, evening, they are obsessed with a certain individual and can't seem to get them out of their head, can't seem to get them out of their feelings, can't seem to get them out of their hearts. And they call each other and they're already falling asleep. Oh, yeah, hi, baby. Oh, cool. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh.
These days is
Meanwhile, some of it is actually prank call. They are playing on the keyboards of you. They are leading you on, and they lead you on and on and on and on, only for you to hit a snag and then go like, why did you do this? And then they are crying. So it requires maturity. You've got to have your handle on your emotions. Matured people exhibit maturity through appropriate manners. And that is what matters when you compare them to neophytes or children. Infants flare up in tantrums. They are very, everything is sentimental, everything is everything is bubbly. But a matured person is stable because they look at things. When they are taking a decision, they weigh the consequences of the decision and the choice they are making. So it is important for people not to play with love because it's a volatile pursuit of life. It's like death. And when love holds something in its grip, letting go is no joke. And I've sat, over 32 years of working with young people. I've sat with countless of young people who have been devastated. Some actually mortgaged their university dreams for love. Some, their lives have had to come to a halt simply because they have found love. How on earth can your life come to a halt simply because you found love? And people say that love makes you blind. Hey, are you sure? It is the reason many wake up to a rude shock when they marry. Because suddenly their eyes are now open and they begin to see things that they did not see when they said they were bitten by love bugs. So there's a need for our young men and women to tone down. You see, relationships grow from platonic to romantic,
Right.
then to sexual. Now, I see a lot of young men and women, they take a leapfrog straight into sexual relations, and now they want to be intimate. And last week I did mention, many young ladies, they offer the emotional bit and the sexual bit, looking for love. And the young men actually promise you love also being preoccupied with getting emotionally entangled with you or sexually involved with you.
Yeah.
So girls have given themselves emotionally to guys. They get huggy, touchy. And touch is never an advantage for a woman in a relationship. Because the moment you start touching a woman, her senses are numb.
Right.
And the rational bit of the woman ceases to function optimally. So she's riding on the whirlwind of sentiments and emotions. Oosh, ash, ooh, 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 ooh. This is where the girls say things like, oh, stop what you're doing. And then they get to a certain crescendo and they say, don't stop what you're doing, keep going.
Keep going.
Because you brought them to a certain point. So there's a need for the young ladies in particular not to get overly physical when they get into a relationship. Because you play into the guy's hands.
Okay. So there's a survey that we did, and speaking to a couple of young people, and we're asking them what their thoughts are, what has love got to do with dating. And most of the people we spoke to said, they said, oh, they'll rather be sex buddies than date. Have you come across that?
So then you become somebody who supplies sexual pleasure to an individual without the date. And then, like I said, if you're using date in the real sense of the word, in my book, Doing Dating Decently, I talk about date as D-A-T-E. And this is how I define it. Debasing activities through exploitation. And I've seen a lot of young men and women, what they're literally doing is setting themselves up for self-destruction. And many think that, oh, we are dating so that we prepare for marriage. But a lot of the things they do in the dating actually becomes counterproductive. In economics, there's a principle of the law of diminishing returns. Here you are, you thought you were in love. That's why I talked about that young couple. 4 years of dating on campus. They couldn't survive the turbulence of marriage for 4 months. They are out now. Everybody is on their own now. What happened? Because the reality dawns on you that you've been joking. I miss you. Yes, I miss you. I was just thinking of you and you called. Oh, Charlie. It's like child's play. And so by the time they sit with you in, say, pre-nuptial counseling, you ask them, do you know his dreams? What aspirations do you have? What are his hobbies? You watch It Takes Two on television. Two people come on set, they say, we are friends. We've been childhood friends. This one says, they are asked, what is your favorite meal? He said, wache. Then the blind side of the individual, they say, yoko geri. Of course, there is beans in them, but it's not the same.
Of course.
You see, so there's a need for people to intentionally develop the interest to get to familiarize themselves with another. And there are basic things you should get to know. Who they are, what their dreams are, where they grew up in, how far they've journeyed in life so far, what landmarks or timelines do they have. And that is why you see a lot of people, they say they are dating and it's 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. You don't date for that long. Because if you date for that long, the longer it stays, the deeper the stench. And the heightened anxiety that comes with protracted dates, it makes the heart sick.
What's the ideal time or length of time for dating?
So if you decide to date, hoping that you use that as into marriage, don't do it for too long. For instance, I've talked about maturity. Be sure that you've got a handle on yourself. That's important. Now I come to Val and say, Val, I'm thinking of the future with you. So I want to date you to see what happens. We have to straight away have parameters within which we will operate.
Okay.
If we don't have that, we will always overstep our boundaries. And some of it may be unbeknown to each of us, and yet we have it in expectation. So I would discourage people from doing anything above 2 years. Because where I sit, when you keep a person's heart for 2 years in suspense, you create a lot of anxiety. Sometimes they become overly sick and desperate. because they want to hear you say something, and nothing is coming. And then you hurt them when you have a change of mind. And I've seen several of those cases. And so let us be very careful and wary of pushing people into a cliffhanger condition,
right,
which will cause a lot of devastation amongst our social existence.
Okay, I'm going to draw our audience into the conversation pretty quick. But what would be perhaps what someone should look out for as boundaries? What should you look out for to set your boundaries, and how do you make sure you stay in your boundaries and do not cross into somebody else's boundaries?
All right, okay, so a lot of these boundaries will be determined by your personal morals, you know, the moral and ethical foundations that you have. So those who are religious, the religious parameters they set. Now, there are also parameters you must set with respect to your own safety.
Right.
There are safety parameters you must set. For instance, curfews are very important for safety. You don't want to get out late in the night, you know. You don't want to get into these binge drinking situation, because it's been a fertile ground for molestations. And one of the commonest threats with dating that goes into those kinds of activities is date rapes.
Right.
There are lots of young people who have suffered date rape but can't talk about it because they think the person loves them. But if a person does love you, they won't do that to you. You know, so that's another area. Then also, who is our friend?
Right.
Because shared friendships and values are very important for the relationship to thrive. If we can't share anything common, what are we doing in a relationship then? So our friends should be mutual. Right. It doesn't mean you have the same set of friends, but they should be the kind that we both accept to be the kind of friends we want to be associated with, because it comes with collateral effect.
Okay.
You know, and that's also one. Then timelines for what it is that you're doing. I mean, ask yourself, what is this all about? Some of us have not clearly defined what this is about. And it's like a journey to nowhere, but we are busy moving. I set off this morning all the way from the Dowenya stretch. I knew I was coming to GTV, but I got to Accra a bit earlier, so I had to stop at Afrikiko.
Okay.
Whilst I was relaxing my vehicle in Afrikiko, I didn't stay there. I looked at my time, I called Mark, and I said, Mark, I'll be here in good time. And then in good time, I was here for my makeup, and here am I. Okay. You see, you've got to have timelines. That we are in love, and therefore, because we are in love, I'm in love, and then we love. Love is the message, and the message is love. Oh, look, you need more than love to marry.
More than love to marry. Okay, Docs, and so we are going to be throwing the questions to you lot. Who's next? Who's first to speak? What's your name first, please?
I'm Emmanuel.
Okay.
Hi, Emmanuel.
In your speech, you said we shouldn't date for too long.
Not too long.
And you gave a timeline for 2 years. Now, within the 2 years, as a man, what are my responsibilities? Because in the Ghanaian context of dating, the man assumes like the financial burden or financial provider of the lady. That is the first question. The second one, is there anything like cheating in the context of dating? Am I allowed to see other ladies or girls in the context of this dating?
All right. Okay, so I'm speaking to it largely in the form and manner it is being practiced today. Because for the ones I have seen on the university campus where I spent 15 years with students, it's actually a close relationship. So no other party is allowed in. If you actually allow another party in, it's a dress rehearsal for infidelity.
Okay.
So nobody will countenance a date relationship as I know it amongst students when you are also hanging around with a third party. It creates apprehension, it creates mistrust, it makes people sit on edge all the time, and it's destructive as well. So I would discourage people who say they are in an exclusive dating relationship from getting into another relationship with others excessively, especially when they get very personal. Because you see, if it is a professional relationship, it's different. And that's what we see in the offices right now.
Yeah.
We are in the office. Our relationship basically is professional. But all of a sudden, we drift from professional to personal.
Yeah.
And that's one step away from trouble. Now, the issue of responsibility. In Akan, they have a statement. I mean, the painful reality today from my practice is this. I've seen married people who wish they were single. They were behaving as though they were single. They come to the office, they carry themselves as singles. They talk like single people. They are expected to carry themselves as married people. Why are they behaving like singles? Now, on the other hand, I see single people acting and playing the role of a couple. The Wall Street Journal recently published a piece that if you don't want your marital time to be in crisis, marry early. Yes. And it's quite interesting that they have done a study and they have seen how young men and young women who never cohabited but married early have a stable marriage, have a far stable marriage than those who did that. Now, many of these breadwinner things is simply because you think you're doing the person a favor. If I'm not married to you, I owe you no obligations. Do not saddle yourself with responsibility that is premature. You know, and the sad thing is, true, I'm happy he made the sign of the cross because he gave a sigh of relief. I find it quite sad that young men are taking for themselves breadwinner positions. I mean, go and read about the concept of breadwinner. It's a whole conversation. Even in marriages now, husbands and wives are working together and supplying to meet the needs of the family together because they are help to each other.
Yeah.
It's not a dependency model where in the olden days he finds a lady, he says, I'll marry you and take care of you, make or show. And a lot of the songs that we listen to these days, they are completely off track because they are not in the reality of the 21st century. They are in the reality of the pre-modern era, pre-industrial revolution. And so there's a need for you to take that out of your head, that you have a responsibility to pay bills, to send Momo. I know young ladies who
Uber first. Send money for
Sunday,
Uber.
on Sunday they call, hi, no, Eva. There's a standing order, weekly delivery of Momo. Why do you take that upon yourself? But if you're doing a gesture of love, you are allowed to do that. But never see it as an investment in a lady, because see, when ladies appreciate, their perspectives change. And when their perspectives change, it has changed. And it has sent some young men to their grave too early. Now, unfortunately, the ladies also are doing something in error. You're not married to the person. Then you carry yourself to go and do sleepover. You're doing laundry. You are cooking.
Cooking together and doing TikTok videos.
And then now you are doing bedmatics. You start doing bedmatics as dress rehearsal, as though, you see, they say experience is the best teacher. Well, I always ask the question, what is the classroom cost? But how many have what it takes to pay the cost? There are people working with brokenness and bitterness. They can't tell you because they have to put a mascara. So there's a need for the young ladies not to go and carry themselves and play wife duties when you cannot be called a wife. I went to one tertiary school to speak, and I slept in the room of the president of the group that invited me. You know what happened? In the morning, I was going to take my shower, and as I was entering the shower, a young guy and a lady were exiting the shower. Oh. And I was like, oh my word.
Steamy.
I mean, it's burning sensation.
Steamy.
So I asked the president who was in my company, are they husband and wife? He said, no, they are not husband and wife. But on campus, everybody calls them Mr. and Mrs. Can you imagine? So the day you become Mr. and Mrs. proper, what would you be called? This is where the law of diminishing returns comes in. And many of them, you go into the marriage, you've been together for 22 years. Meanwhile, it's just 2 weeks, 1 month, and you are fatigued already. So there's a need for the ladies also to carry themselves well. Love is not a hypnotic drug. It's not a spell. It's something that you can handle reasonably and make it work for you and whoever you love.
Okay.
Right. So my name is Gloria.
Okay.
And prior to dating, I wanted to ask, back in the day, ladies are not known to ask a guy out or make their intentions known. It's normally the men. But in our centuries now, it's like girls are doing that now, and people keep bashing ladies for doing that. I want to know if that is still a thing. Like, are we supposed to do that, or still stay in the old days where the men do the intro?
Super good question. Come to glory. You know, the thing with males and men in particular is this: the things they do not initiate, they are not committed to them. So if a lady takes to herself, I'm going to propose to a guy, you've got your work cut out for you. Be ready to do all the work. The guy is just going to be laid back, armchaired, laissez-faire, and expect you to do all the calls, to do all the visits, to do all the pursuit. And that is what set the young ladies in desperation.
Right.
So what I teach my young ladies in my sessions every time I have is what I call strategic positioning. To be noticed and to be heard. But don't go ahead of yourself. Make the guy make a commitment to you. Because men are very different. It's a relationship here in his head, not in his heart. Many ladies start with their heart. So whilst you are head and heels over in the relationship, he's actually now warming up. You are madly in love, crazy about love. You're telling all your friends, putting him on social media, put him on your status, everywhere. He's now gauging himself to be sure of what he's doing. By the time, and this can go for as long as 10 years.
Wow.
A man can be in a relationship with you for 10 years and his heart will not yet be there. So when he has a crisis, he goes bonkers in his head. But many ladies, they have crisis of the heart. Why? Because by the time you see things are not going well, you start thinking, your head, the forehead is warm. Your eyes are very heavy.
You can sweat.
You sweat. That's one for me. Then something's doing me. I don't know. I can't help. Somebody help me. No. Because you are not designed to do that. So I beg you, ladies, be strategic. Ask questions. Talk. A lady who knows how to raise conversations has the power in a relationship.
Okay.
Raise the questions. Look, guys don't like to talk in relationships. And many men, I'm sitting with wives who can't get their husbands to talk. And they want them to talk. And I asked them, when you were dating, were you talking? He said, we hardly spoke. He always comes and he's touching me, he holds me, he doesn't want to leave me, he grieves me. And then, because the touch is an advantage for him. You are playing into his hands. Now that you are married, you want him to talk, you sit there and look at you.
And so if you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't like talking, this is before you get married, what do you do? Because you asked the married woman what they were doing while they were dating. So what do you do if you're with a partner?
So for instance, there are people who don't talk in a relationship simply because of the way they are wired. There are people who are not talking in a relationship who are also going through something other than the way they are wired. So you need to understand why the person isn't talking.
Right.
Sometimes the reason they're not talking is that they are disinterested in what you're raising. If I'm disinterested in your conversational trends, I will definitely keep quiet and watch you do all the talking. If you're in a relationship with a person who talks, a sanguine for that matter, and she likes to talk and babble, she always has something to say, something new all the time, new conversations. She's just changing the subject. So, move from this side to that side. And you go there and be like, okay, you keep talking, I'll just listen. And I'll just listen, keep talking. And so there are also those tendencies. And we've got to work our way around conversations. And it should not be interrogating.
Okay. Back to our audience in studio.
Fatima.
Okay, Fatima.
And my question is about cheating.
Cheating.
Yeah. If your partner cheats on you, comes to you to confess, as a lady or a guy, should you stay or leave the person?
All right. That's a good question, Fatima.
Are you sweating? Is she sweating? Can you check if she's sweating?
He almost missed the beat, eh? Now, you see, we are not married yet, and you already started cheating. What you should know is that marriage is a multiplier, it's an amplifier, and it's not a cure for infidelity. So if you are hoping that, oh, when we marry, this will stop, it's a big joke. It's a big joke. It never stops. It actually gets more complex. And so you need to first sit down with the person and discuss what has happened, its impact on you, and how you have been dashed in your hope and expectations of them. Now, they need to now work double to earn that trust. And trust is not an event, it's a process. So it takes time. And it's going to take a while for the person to recover from what he has done. There are some individuals who find themselves in an accidental situation and they are entangled. So in our field of work, we have something we call accidental infidelity. That's accidental. It's a one-off incident that never occurs again. But there are people with a repeated cycle of such a behavior. So you don't approach the two in the same way. This was accidental. Are you able to forgive? Are you willing to let him go? Or you want to keep him and still rework the relationship? All those decisions, they are yours to make. And when people sit in my office, I never take those decisions for them. So I will not take it for you. But I would encourage you, weigh the consequences, the pros and the cons of staying in the relationship as opposed to walking out. Can you stay out? Are you afraid? Are you dependent on him or her? And it can happen on both sides. A lady can do that to a guy, and a guy can do that to a lady. But we promise each other love and fidelity, and so we are connected. Anything that potentially creates mistrust damages the health of the relationship.
Okay, and then in such a scenario, if you forgive, can you forget?
No, you will not be able to forget. I mean, but you see, that's why I always recommend Lisa Turker's book, which I showed the other time. It's titled Forgiving What You Cannot Forget. In this life, if you've pulled your tooth before anywhere, you realize how every time your tongue rolls, it goes into the cavity. Memories from the past are very real.
Right.
Because love always leaves, memories in people. Whether it's good or bad, it will leave memories with you. Because love is very impactful. So if you choose to forgive, you are better off. You know why? Forgiveness benefits the one who has forgiven the other more than the one who has been forgiven. And why do you want to take a medicine that is deadly and expect somebody else to die? So if you don't want to let go, you would be processing toxics in you. The toxicity will rise. And for as long as you are not willing to let go, you are going to be in a cage controlled by that person. Remotely range. Let's give an example. You're climbing the stairways and the person you are hurt by them, or you hurt them and haven't forgiven, or they haven't forgiven you, the moment you see them descending whilst you're climbing the stairs, your whole body has to adjust and realign itself. From your thoughts all through your emotions to your body, you've got to do something to yourself. Why are you putting yourself in such torture? So people who are unforgiving, they are never healthy. They are never healthy. And the tendency for them to recycle their hurt in other people is really real.
Wow. Okay.
My name is Kweku.
Yes, Kweku.
I want to know, how has temperament and principles re-established for ourselves affected relationships? People are like,
Kweku, please use your microphone.
as for me, I'm like this, I'm like that, and this is the way I go about doing my things. How has it affected relationship? And then also, how has media
also affected relationship, because in our days now, when you watch especially movies, you see if the average person should be in a relationship, the person should have that nice car, some nice apartment. Is that necessarily how you're supposed to go about it?
All right, okay.
Thank you.
I was in a studio with one giant of a celebrity, and he's in showbiz, so people know him. And I asked him to tell the young people that he has a double face.
Yeah.
Double face in the sense that he has his showbiz life and he has his regular life. If you met him in his regular life, it's very different. So the names they use for showbiz is different from what they are called and known. Now that should tell you that anytime you watch what we see on the silver screen, it has educational value, yes. It has more value. Unfortunately, people who are not aware of how these things work, they sit back and they're watching, say, a telenovela, and they assume that it happened in one day. But those of you here, you know that it didn't happen one day. There are scenes and all that have been pieced together by a continuity director so that it flows seamlessly. But there is a power there called the power of suspense. It is that which keeps many people going back to it, because it always has to end on a spellbound note. And you want to see what's going to happen next. Of course, I'm not giving away your techniques to the unsophisticated, but that's what happens. And so you are sitting there. I had a story of a woman who told her husband, "Okay, dear papa ni yo kunkumba dia mune bi na wo ye." This is a wife telling the husband that what she has been watching on Gungun Badia, the husband is doing just the same. So what do you think will be her response? She is going to just literally transliterate that and transpose it into her relationship. So we have to be careful. And some of these things we also see, the context in which they are produced are completely different from your context. I see a lot of teenagers, they come to me, "Oh, when you go to America, 18-year-old girls are in love, they have a lover," and this. I say, okay, the 18-year-old in America is 32 years in Ghana. Because I go with young people, I travel out and they take me to shopping. I mean, they go to the most expensive shops and they don't carry cash. No. They have like 5 or 6 debit cards. And they are paying €1 or $1 a month. And you sit in Ghana, no of you. You are going to follow them. They stand in the bus and bus 10 is coming in 10 minutes. Exactly 10 minutes it will come. Great. You. Accra. Mamobi. Yeah. Hey, what's Impia? You know, that kind of thing. And you are going to live your life like that. By the time you do that thing, you are finished. Okay, so the issue of temperament. So media has a positive side. What we're doing is media platform. So there's a positive conversation we're having. But the other side is, don't just take things hook, line, sinker. Even the things I'm saying, you've got to sit back, process it before you pick what you think can apply. Okay, now the issue of temperament. Temperament is a big thing. It's how a person is wired and their response to situations of life. But you see, nobody is a pure breed. That's the thing. I'm yet to find anybody whose temperament is pure. So you say, I'm sanguine.
Pure sanguine.
Pure sanguine. No, it doesn't exist. I'm choleric. Pure choleric. No. Even there is a fifth temperament that people don't talk about. It's called the supine. The supine temperament. Now, it affects how people respond to things. And so it will affect relationships as well. So you have a sanguine. Everything is joke. He has so many friends. And you are bothered. But the interesting thing is that what you admire in a person for which you get attracted to them, the moment you get into it, it becomes a put-off.
I can relate.
So to that extent, temperaments affect relationships. Okay. But we can manage it.
Okay, we'll have to cut this session short, but then next Wednesday we'll have another session with our love doctor on the GTV BFS Lab series for the month of February. You're there's a program coming up, a project you're working on which you're passionate about.
Yes. Well, we have an event where we're taking couples to Royal Cozy Hotel in Jirapa.
Okay.
It is famously known on social media as Jirapa Dubai. And this year, husbands and wives who are coming, we're focusing on 3 thematic areas.
Okay.
The first one has to do with sounds. This is music. I mean, that place, the music there is very different from the South. And then the second thematic area is spiced sex.
Okay.
This is not for singles, it's for spouses.
Okay.
It's spiced, served hot, spicy, and sizzling.
On a kitchen counter?
Not on a kitchen counter. This one is in Royal Cozy Hotel. Then the last bit has to do with safari. They have a big safari facility. The couples are going to enjoy that time there. And it is from the 27th. I mean, the first flight will be 27th. The second flight will be 28th. But the event terminates on the 1st of May.
Okay.
Those who leave the 27th will return to Accra on the 30th. And those who leave on the 28th will return on the 1st of May. Anybody who is watching, you can see footages from the one we did at Sogakope Beach Resort. Last year we were there. This is the 8th edition.
Right.
The pictures are from the 7th edition. The oldest couple is about 44 years in marriage with 12 grandchildren.
Ay, ay, ay.
The youngest are 1 year old. Some actually come there from their wedding.
Wow.
They sign and they time their weddings around that. We've had people flying in from outside Ghana to participate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, so if you want to be part of it as a couple, you can send a WhatsApp request and you'll be sent the link for registration and to 0266 803285. 0266 803285.
Thank you, Elder Amos,
You're
for
welcome, Val.
sharing your thoughts and inspiring us and letting us think deeper. Thank you very much. We've been having this conversation with Elder Amos Kevin Annan, aka the Love Doctor. He's also the CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation and a healthy homes advocate. And today's topic has been, what has love got to do with dating? And this is a special birthday message to Miss Mabel Okroku. She's a child care specialist and teacher at the Dolly Memorial Creche and Nursery School, Alaboni. You have touched and transformed the lives of little ones over the years. Your passion and love for your kids in class is commendable. The children love you and so do the parents. And this is a special one coming in from a parent who wishes to be anonymous. And this has been our show. And so if you missed bits of the show or you want to again, we on repeat this evening on GTV at 11 p.m. and also on our Facebook, GTV Ghana. You can catch every conversation we've had today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you again tomorrow at 5:55. Have a great day, guys. Bye.